Imagine a warm summer evening in America, the late 1940s or early 1950s. The sun has just set. The sky is still light, but the first lights are starting to come on. Cars slowly turn off the road and into a large open lot. This isn't a store parking lot. This is a drive-in movie theater. People stay inside their cars. Some roll down the windows, others turn off the engine. A small metal speaker is hooked onto the car door. The screen lights up ahead. The movie is about to begin. For millions of Americans, this was the perfect evening. Drive-ins weren't just movie theaters. They became part of the American way of life. Today, we're taking a closer look at how drive-in theaters turned into something truly special, and why America fell in love with them. After World War II, America began to change quickly. Millions of people moved from cities to the suburbs. Homes were built farther apart, and almost every family now owned a car. The automobile was no longer a luxury. It became part of everyday life. And with that, the way people relaxed began to change. Traditional movie theaters were still popular, but they weren't always convenient for families with children. You had to dress up, drive into the city, and look for parking. With young kids, it was especially difficult. Drive-ins solved that problem. The idea was simple. You watch a movie without leaving your car. The first drive-in theaters appeared back in the 1930s, but at the time they were mostly an experiment. Real growth began after the war, in the late 1940s and early 1950s. The suburbs kept expanding, cars became more common, and drive-ins fit perfectly into this new way of life. There was no need to stay quiet. You could talk. You could bring your kids. If a child fell asleep, no one minded. Drive-ins became part of the suburban dream. A house, a car, a family, and an evening under the open sky. It was cinema adapted for a nation on wheels. A trip to the drive-in began before the movie even started. Cars lined up at the entrance. At the ticket booth, you paid per car, not per person. Often, one price covered the entire family. An attendant pointed you toward your spot. Rows of cars were angled slightly so everyone had a clear view of the screen. You pulled in slowly, parked, and turned off your headlights. That was important. Headlights could ruin the experience for others. Next to each parking space stood a metal pole. A small speaker hung from it. You rolled down the window and hooked the speaker onto the car door. The wire was short. The sound wasn't perfect. Sometimes it crackled, sometimes it faded. But that was exactly how a drive-in was supposed to sound. The screen ahead was massive, bright white, rising above the cars like a giant billboard. Before the movie begins, short reels are often shown. Food advertisements, house rules, sometimes short cartoons. People talk inside their cars. Someone laughs. Someone honks at a friend. This isn't the silence of a traditional movie theater. It's a living space. The movie starts when it's fully dark outside. The sky above the screen is black, with only a few lights in the distance. You watch the film sitting in your car, in a familiar seat, in your own personal space. That's what made drive-ins special. Drive-ins weren't just about movies. They were about time spent together. Almost every drive-in had a snack bar. Sometimes it was a separate building. Sometimes just a window with neon signs. Popcorn, hot dogs, burgers, French fries. Simple food, fast food, easy to eat in a car. Employees often brought food directly to the vehicles. Trays were hooked onto the car window. The smell of food was strong, mixing with the night air. For teenagers, drive-ins became a special place. They meant freedom. You could come without parents. You could sit in a car with friends. You could watch the movie, or pretend to. Drive-ins quickly became popular spots for dates. No one was watching. It was dark. You were in your car, in your own space. Some movies were even made with drive-ins in mind. Simpler plots, more action. More scenes you could follow even if you weren't watching closely. For families, drive-ins worked in a different way. Kids could run around before the movie started. They could fall asleep in the back seat. No one demanded silence. Drive-ins brought different generations together. Families, teenagers, couples. They weren't just places to watch movies. They were places to meet. By the early 1950s, drive-in theaters were everywhere. They were built quickly and in large numbers, on the edges of cities, in the suburbs, near new housing developments. At one point, there were several thousand drive-in theaters operating across the United States. For many families, this became the main way to watch movies. Drive-ins fit perfectly with the lifestyle of the time. There was a house, there was a car, there was a free evening, no dress code, no lines in a lobby, no strict rules of behavior. You could arrive late, you could leave early, you could watch the movie while talking to the people next to you. Movies shown at drive-ins adapted to the format. Double features were common. Sometimes B-movies, science fiction, horror films, or comedies. The sound wasn't always perfect, the picture wasn't always sharp, but that didn't matter. Drive-ins weren't about quality, they were about atmosphere. For theater owners, drive-ins were convenient as well. Land outside the cities was cheaper. They could fit hundreds, sometimes even thousands of viewers at once. Drive-ins became a true symbol of the era, just like large cars, neon signs, and suburban homes. If you lived in America during the 1950s or 1960s, chances are you had a drive-in of your own. By the late 1960s, things began to change. America still loved cars, but lifestyles were slowly shifting. Land around cities became more expensive. The large plots once used for drive-ins were now too valuable for movie theaters. Shopping centers, supermarkets, and apartment complexes took their place. At the same time, the film industry itself was changing. Traditional theaters moved indoors. Multiplex cinemas appeared. Sound improved. The picture became brighter and clearer. Drive-ins couldn't compete on quality. Rain, fog, and cold weather all interfered with the experience. In winter, many drive-ins simply closed. Another major factor emerged: television. By the end of the 1950s, almost every home had a TV. Movies, shows, and news could now be watched without leaving the house. For families, drive-ins were no longer the only option for entertainment. And for teenagers, new gathering places appeared: shopping malls, clubs, concerts. By the 1970s and 1980s, the number of drive-in theaters had dropped sharply. Many closed for good. What was once a mass form of entertainment gradually became a rarity. And yet, drive-ins never disappeared completely. Some still operate today. Others return as seasonal events or temporary venues. But most importantly, they live on in memory. Drive-ins aren't remembered for picture quality or sound, and not even for the movies themselves. They're remembered for the feeling. A warm evening, an open sky, a car that turns into a personal movie theater. It was cinema without formality, without rules, without rushing. For some, drive-ins mean family nights. For others, first dates. For some, the freedom of teenage years. Today, in an age of streaming and screens in every pocket, the idea of watching a movie under the open sky almost feels unreal. And that's exactly why drive-ins still capture our imagination. They remind us of a time when movies weren't just content. They were an event. If this feeling is familiar to you, tell us in the comments whether you've ever been to a drive-in, or if you've always wanted to go. And if you'd like to see more, leave a like and tell us which part of retro America you'd like to explore next.